So now that we've warmed up the imagination, we're ready to move into a little bit of a different area, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about how the mind works and why these things really are helpful ways of learning new skills. So I want to talk now about a model of the mind that will be really helpful in helping us to understand why we do the things we do and how we can make change so much easier for ourselves. The conscious mind is our logical mind. Conscious mind is the home of planning and decision making. It's a linear thinking mind. The conscious mind is in charge of things like scheduling, organizing information, planning, and decision making. Planning a meeting or a trip typically requires a lot of conscious mind attention. What's the timeline? What subjects will you cover in a meeting? Or what items will you need to bring on your trip? When you're learning a new skill, such as driving, a lot of that is done with the conscious mind. You have to figure out which foot do I push and how hard do I push it when I want to slow the car down. You have to figure out where are the blinkers and how do I turn this thing on. So a lot of learning to drive, if any of you remember, is pretty complex and takes a lot of thinking and figuring out. But when you fast forward a year or two, what happens? Driving is automatic for most of us. And that's the realm of the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind you can essentially think about as our automatic pilot. So things that we do automatically and don't even think about them are run by the subconscious mind. Driving is such a great example. When you go on a familiar route, all you think about is, where am I going? And you can drive the rest of the way without ever having a conscious thought. The things we do automatically are like grooves in our subconscious mind. When we begin to do them, we slip into that groove automatically. And if we're not thinking consciously, we'll tend to do things the way we've always done them. It just is automatic. For the most part, that serves us well. We don't have to think about which sock am I going to put on this morning, or how much shampoo shall I put in my hand. We just do those things automatically. But it's interesting when we want to make a change, how that automatic pilot sometimes just keeps us doing the same thing, even though our conscious intention is to do it differently. A great example that's probably happened to some of you who have rented cars is when you go to drive a new car, if you've had the windshield wipers on one side and the blinkers on the other in your car, you go into a new car, and if they're reversed, you may consciously notice, oh yeah, they're reversed. If I want to get to the windshield wipers or the blinkers, I'll have to do it the opposite. So the conscious logical mind knows that perfectly well, but many of us will mistakenly 2 or 3 times before we finally get a new groove in there, we'll actually turn on the windshield wipers instead of the blinkers, or vice versa. So lots of things in our lives that we often laugh at ourselves about or chuckle because, oh, I meant to do that, but I did it the way I always did. That's because of those grooves in the subconscious mind. Now, for the most part, this serves us, but when we want to make a change, it's important to know how to speak the language of the subconscious mind so that we really can help the subconscious mind make those changes. The subconscious mind is home of so many of our mind functions. It's home of our emotions, our habits, our memory. It's home of our imagination and dreams, and very importantly, it's home of our survival instincts. Lots of our physiological functions arise from the subconscious mind, such as muscle memory and reflex actions and any number of physiological functions. Things like blood pressure and heart rate are powerfully affected by our subconscious mind or automatic pilot. For example, the fight or flight response often takes over when we're angry or scared. That fight or flight response automatically raises our blood pressure, puts adrenaline running through our system, and makes us feel really quite on edge. Now, if we were in the animal world, we'd be ready to run away or to fight. But for us, we may consciously not really want to have that fight or flight response. We may really wish we could stay calm in this situation. But our conscious mind that says, you shouldn't let that bother you. Maybe it's something somebody said to you or something that happens on the highway. You shouldn't let that bother you, says the conscious mind, but the subconscious mind often says, it bothers me. It's an automatic response. The yellow place in the center of this diagram is what I often call inner wisdom or intuition. It's a very clear, creative, and wise part of our mind. It's not automatic like the subconscious mind, which gets programmed to do things the way it's always done them. The wise mind can see each situation as it is, and it's intrinsically a loving, strong force in our lives. Our inner wisdom is a quiet part, and we hear it best when we slow down, relax, and give ourselves a little space. Exercising, meditating, praying, being in nature are some of the ways that many people connect to this wisdom. It's a quiet part of our minds, but when we access it, it can be an amazingly brilliant, creative, and useful force in our lives. Some of the relaxation exercises that we'll be doing in this class and some of the resources that you'll have to take home with you can really help you with the relaxation and the focus that lets you access this part of your mind. It is always kind, and it's a nice thing to take along with you to help you find your own kind inner voice. Because our subconscious mind is like an automatic pilot and can help us do things easily if we program it effectively, it's worth taking some time to understand it a little better. So I'm going to talk now about 3 important principles of the subconscious mind. I want to talk a little bit more about the subconscious mind and the conscious mind and the different ways they communicate, because the conscious mind and the subconscious mind speak very different languages. The conscious mind is the language of logic, but if you try to talk logic to your subconscious mind, it's like talking Greek to someone who only understands French. Je ne comprends pas. And the subconscious mind really doesn't get the message, even if you talk louder and louder and louder. So when you say to yourself, well, you really shouldn't eat that, it's not good for you, the subconscious mind says, je ne comprends pas. It really doesn't understand that piece of logic. So one of the most important things you can do is to learn, how do I speak the language of my subconscious mind? Because when you want your automatic mind, that automatic pilot, to do something different, it's only fair to explain it in its own language. The language of the subconscious mind is, guess what? It's the imagination. And that's why we've been really warming up our imaginations. When we learn to bring imagination into the things that we want to create in our lives, when we learn to show our subconscious mind what that is, we'll find that things flow much more smoothly. Many of us do this automatically. We don't even realize it, but before we're going to take a drive, we might rehearse it in our mind, or before we're going to take a ski down the slope, we may mentally go over it in our mind. So lots of ways we do this automatically. The second thing you need to know about the subconscious mind and how to speak its language is that the subconscious mind needs to be clearly instructed about what you want it to do. So you're creating basically a blueprint for what you want your subconscious mind to do. Otherwise said, you're opening a new path, kind of creating a new groove. If you tell yourself, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that, you're not being fair, because you're not giving instructions to your subconscious mind of what you do want it to do. It would be like if you have a 5-year-old run into your house and throw her coat on the floor, and you say to her, don't throw your coat on the floor. Well, chances are pretty good that she'll pick her coat up and throw it on a chair. And maybe what you really wanted her to do was to hang it up on the hook. So our subconscious mind is very much like the mind of a 5-year-old in all of its creativity and all of its wonderful expressiveness. And it also needs clear information about what you want it to do. So if you say to that 5-year-old, oh, there's your coat. Pick up your coat and put it on that really cool hook over there. That kid's going to go, oh, all right. Good chance she'll actually do it. So when you want to do something, when you want to create something in your life, it's so important that you tell yourself what you do want and not what you don't want. The third thing that it's good to know about your subconscious mind in order to help it do what you want it to do is that it has two important jobs. It's two important jobs. The first one is our survival. It's the one that says, time for fight or flight because I'm in charge of your survival. And our subconscious mind is also a pleasure-seeking mind. Its second job after it helps us to survive is to help us feel good. So it's always going to guide us in the direction of what really feels good. This is one of the huge things you can know that can help you make change in your life, because oftentimes when we want to make a change, we say to ourselves something like, I gotta stop smoking those cigarettes. They're really bad for me. It's costing me $1,000 a year. I gotta stop smoking them, but it's gonna be awful. I'm gonna be miserable. I'm gonna be cranky, and I'm gonna really miss those cigarettes. Well, we're painting a picture to our subconscious mind who hears that emotion. It picks up the language of emotion, and it's saying, you better not quit those cigarettes because they make you feel good. Some people even say to themselves and honestly feel, I'm gonna die if I don't have a cigarette right now. So again, the subconscious mind says, wow, we gotta hang on to those cigarettes because they're essential for feeling good and surviving. Somebody that wants to quit smoking can really move in that direction by creating a picture in their mind or a feeling about how great it would be to run up the stairs and be able to breathe really well. So they really get that sense and feeling how great it would be to go out to dinner with friends and be able to sit there through the whole dinner beginning to end and enjoy coffee and dessert and feel like they can relax there instead of needing to run outside for a cigarette. So when we try to shame ourselves or scare ourselves into doing something in our lives, whether it's stop smoking cigarettes or stop being such a slob or, all the things that we try to get ourselves to do, if we're putting it out in a negative way, we really cannot scare that subconscious mind into doing something permanently. We might accomplish that for a very short time, but the subconscious mind that directs us, it's like a compass, it takes us in that direction of what makes me feel good. That mind really needs to hear and understand, why is this going to make me feel good? And then I want to do it. So whatever you want to create, if you look at how you're talking to yourself about it, you'll find that you can create it much better when you create an idea, an image, or a feeling of how great that's going to be in your life. It's all about perspective. And the subconscious mind, to move in the direction of change, needs a wonderfully inspiring perspective. Here are 5 terrific ways to create change in your life efficiently and effectively. To help you absorb these techniques, you may want to pause the recording and do the writing exercise at the end of each description. So there's lots of wonderful ways that you can communicate with your own subconscious mind when you want to make change. And I'm going to talk to you about 5 of my favorite ways. Now, some of these you've probably used in different ways at different times in your life without even thinking about it. You've probably used them automatically. The first one is imagining. I've already gone over that, but I want to talk specifically about mental rehearsal. Mental rehearsal is one of the ways you can create the blueprint. You show your mind what you want. Open the path for whatever it is you want to create. Athletes use this all the time. Before their event, they'll generally close their eyes. You'll often see them doing their event in their mind's eye, and they're creating the blueprint for exactly what they want to do. Now, does that mean it always comes out exactly as they envision it? No, of course not. But that envisioning, that mental rehearsal is very powerful in helping them go in that direction. Do they sit there and imagine falling 25 times? No, that wouldn't really help them at all. So remember, when you're imagining what it is you want to do or create, imagine success with an invitation. It's an invitation. It's not a grasping or a running after it. It's an invitation. Another simple example, just to reinforce, imagine what you do want, not what you don't want, would be if you have troubles losing your temper. And you lose your temper when you don't want to, and that's something you're working on. So would you say to yourself, oh, I've got to stop losing my temper at so and so? No. It might be what your logical mind says, but to translate that into the language of your subconscious, or we'll call it the emotional mind in this case, we need to create the blueprint like, oh, when that person does this, maybe it's when the kids are noisy, I take a deep breath and I find a quiet voice, and you could imagine yourself doing that, and that will help create that blueprint so that your subconscious mind has a way of knowing, oh, that's what she wants me to do. For this mental rehearsal writing exercise, you can explore 3 possibilities. First, identify an area of your life where you may already be using mental rehearsal effectively. Second, identify an area of your life where you may be unintentionally doing a negative mental rehearsal. And third, identify an area of your life that might be improved by some positive mental rehearsal. A second way of communicating with the subconscious mind is to look for the emotional connection or emotional feeling of well-being. Simple example, when we imagine the person who's maybe been supportive or helpful to us in our lives, that's a way of feeling that emotion and then bringing it in towards ourselves. The woman who wrote in her letter about initially seeing giving up half and half and butter and all those things as dreary and dark, for her, a visual imaginer, she actually was picturing that as dreary and dark. And when she imagined herself feeling great, feeling healthy, at the weight she wanted to be, it became a light, wonderful way of imagining that. So for her subconscious mind, that was very compelling. So emotional connection, any way you can tune into the good emotions that you'll get when you make a certain change, that'll help your subconscious mind really move in that direction. For this writing exercise, think of something you've been struggling to do better or differently. Then notice if you're perceiving it in an unpleasant way, and if so, how? As a sacrifice or deprivation, or as something uncomfortable or boring or frightening? And then see if you can see it from a different point of view. What are some positive images or good feelings you can imagine associated with this? Another simple way of instructing the subconscious mind or re-educating the subconscious mind is repetition. This is the way we learn a lot of things in our life, whether it's how to drive, doing it 100 times, whether it's how to do those times tables that some of us had to go over and over and over again. Repetition really does help us get things into a groove. So if you want to make a new groove in your own subconscious mind, you can repeat a simple phrase. This is called affirmations. Now there's so many ways to do affirmations, and some of you may have done them in different ways. I'm going to teach you a very simple way, which is think of 2 or 3 words that would describe what you'd like to create for yourself in your life. What's a direction you'd like to go? Put those words on a little card. And maybe even cut this card in half or thirds and put one on your steering wheel and one on the mirror of your bathroom and one someplace in your pocket or a wallet where you might see it. As you repeat those words to yourself, you don't even really have to think about the meaning. You can simply let those words go through your mind and you'll be creating a groove for your subconscious mind. And you'll find that in day-to-day life, sometimes you'll just fall into that groove and it'll be the groove you want to be in. The words kindness, patience, encouragement, that would be a great trio of words to repeat to yourself if you're working on your kind inner voice. If you're someone who struggles with getting things done and it's hard to stay on task, you might use the words calm and focused. It's a nice way, calm and focused, to invite your subconscious mind. It feels a lot better to know, oh, calm and focused, that sounds nice. I'll go in that direction. Healthy and light is a great one for eating. Kind and firm can also be another one that helps you give some guidance. A lot of people worry that if they're too kind to themselves, they'll never get anything done. They'll simply go wild and have fun all the time. But the truth of the matter is, our inner minds know how good we feel when we do accomplish things. They just need the encouragement and the support to make that safe and comfortable. Any of these phrases can be helpful. You'll probably find your own phrases as you go through these exercises. Mostly you're just looking for words that describe how you'd like to be with yourself and with others, and words that portray gentleness, not bossiness or harshness or criticism. See if you can let this writing exercise be spontaneous. Just have fun brainstorming a list of qualities that you appreciate about yourself now, or qualities of which you would like to have more. You can use these later to create your own affirmations. A fourth way, and this is really a fun one, it's really creative, it's a great way to communicate to your subconscious mind, is metaphor. Metaphor is simply a symbol for whatever we want to do. One of the best metaphors I've ever been exposed to was from a woman who was trying to stop bringing the work stress home. So what she said, and she just came up with this on her own and told me about it, and I said, "You're brilliant." She said, "This is kind of weird, but..." And I said, whenever anybody starts with that, "This is kind of weird," they've usually come up with something brilliant to communicate with their subconscious mind. She said, "This is kind of weird, but what I do, because I've been trying not to think about work when I'm at home, is when I come home, when I get to the front door, before I walk in, I wipe my feet on the mat. And I say to myself, I'm wiping off work. And if I find myself cooking dinner, and I find myself thinking about work and worrying about work, I make myself walk back outside and I wipe my feet on the mat again." And some days I have to do that 5 or 10 times, but over the course of a couple of weeks, I've only had to do it once or twice an evening, and it's really worked. Brilliant metaphor. Her subconscious mind understood that in a way her logical mind might not have. She could have said, "Stop thinking about work. It's not going to help. Stop thinking about work." But no, instead she said, "Yep, go on, wipe it off on the mat." So this was a clever, a creative, and a really effective way for her to keep her work stress outside of her home. There's so many ways that we naturally use metaphor. We often don't realize we're using it. And oftentimes when we've effectively found a way to do something, we may have been using a little bit of metaphor. A great way you can use metaphor, if you ever have trouble sleeping and you're saying to yourself, "I've got to stop thinking. I've got to hurry up and get to sleep. if I don't get to sleep in 10 minutes, I'll never be able to handle my day tomorrow. Well, that's the logical mind saying that, and it is indeed true. That is a logical truth. But when we say that to ourselves, the subconscious mind says, oh no, now I'm in trouble. And it gets into a little bit of a fight or flight response, and sleep is much harder. If instead you could just imagine that there's a box by the side of your bed, or maybe even outside the bedroom door, and in that box you can imagine that you toss all the thoughts that are keeping you awake or that are getting that hamster wheel of your mind turning. You can actually have fun. You can toss those thoughts in the box. They can look like basketballs, or they can look like whatever you want them to look like, or just a stream of thoughts. But anytime that thought comes up, or any thought, you just go ahead and put it in the box. It's a great metaphor, and it's really helpful for a lot of people. People I know that have used this have put that box wherever they want. Some people put it up in their closet, out in the car. That helps explain to the subconscious mind, oh, we don't need to cycle those thoughts through right now. You can follow that up with a nice imagining where you take yourself to the beach. You kind of replace the other stressful thoughts with relaxing thoughts. So whether that's the beach, or whether that's a walk in the woods, or wherever that might be for you, if you really enjoy going through it in your mind, imagining and envisioning those details, it will help your body relax. Remember, the body responds to what we imagine. And as your body relaxes, it will ease much more easily into the sleep that you're looking for. A woman who took my class a few months ago came up with a great metaphor. She realized when we talked about health and physical issues that with all of her joint problems, she was usually getting mad at her body, saying, oh, that darn knee, or oh, my stupid back. As she realized what her inner dialogue was to her body, she thought, my poor body, that's really not such a nice way to talk to my body. And because she loved animals, she began to think of some of those problem joints as a sweet animal. And because she was so kind and gentle with animals, it really helped her when instead of saying my darn knee, she began to say, oh, the cranky kitty's acting up. And because she would be compassionate and gentle with a cranky kitty, she could be much more compassionate and gentle with her knee. Or, good old Dobbin's been working too hard, she'd say about her back. Just that metaphor helped her bring that gentle energy to her body. And as I said before, when we are more relaxed about issues that are going on with our body, it helps the circulation, the oxygenation, and all the tissues, all the muscles, all the joints get much better circulation and can actually feel better and work better. So that's metaphor. This exercise is an opportunity to connect to the idea of metaphor more personally. Begin by writing down any metaphor that you've heard and liked, and then play around with creating a metaphor that might help you in a currently challenging area of your life. Take your time with this. Have fun talking to other people about it. This is a particularly fun, creative, and effective approach for some people. The last thing I want to talk about is stories. When I was growing up, I read Aesop's fables, great stories. Parables of the Bible are amazing stories. And for those of us in this day and age who have read Chicken Soup for the Soul, those are great stories too, and they really are stories with a purpose. Stories have a great impact on our subconscious mind, for better or for worse. If we hear a lot of scary stories about something, even if it's only a tiny little bit of the truth of that whole thing, It goes right to our emotional mind, our subconscious mind. And even though the logical mind might say, but wait, that was just one person's story, our emotional mind is soaking it up. It's absorbing it like a sponge and can make us really nervous about doing something because we heard those scary stories. On the other hand, if we can tell ourselves some more neutral or positive things about any situation, or think about something somebody's told us, that will really help us to be more comfortable emotionally in that subconscious realm. If you think about a 5-year-old, or whatever age a child is going to kindergarten or school for the first time, again, that's kind of what our subconscious mind is like, that sort of energy. Now, if you sat down with that child and told them all sorts of scary things about what could happen in kindergarten, a bully could steal your lunch money, the teacher could yell at you if you don't know your numbers, and last year somebody threw up on the school bus. If this child was hearing all these scary stories about school, would they really want to go to school? Probably not. On the other hand, if you could tell that child there's great things to play with at recess, or the teacher is going to read some really good books, or last year the bus driver gave out stickers on the school bus, it's going to let the child feel more comfortable, more at ease, and more relaxed about going to school. So think about an area of your life that's difficult. Maybe an area where you keep bumping your head against the same wall. If you think about that area, you may be telling yourself some stories that are negative or scary or discouraging or hopeless. And if you can explore, what might I be saying to myself and how might I change that? You'll probably find you begin to feel really, really differently about it. So if you make a mistake at work and you say to yourself, oh my gosh, I blew it. I'm probably going to lose my job and who knows if I'll ever get another good job again. That's kind of a scary way to talk to yourself about it. Maybe it's true. Even if it were true, it wouldn't be helpful to the emotional mind and it wouldn't give you resources to cope. Remember, when we get scared, we put the blinders on, and when we put the blinders on, our creative and our problem-solving abilities kind of disappear. So being able to breathe and step back and take a deep breath and say, what would be a more helpful story to tell to myself? What would I tell a friend or someone I care about if this happened to them? It might be a little more neutral, like, yep, I really made a mistake, but my boss likes me. And maybe I can ask my boss for help, and good chance we can patch this up. And even if the worst happens and I lose my job, I really think I can find another one. So thinking about what you tell yourself, in some ways lots of things really are these sorts of stories, and seeing how you can make them helpful or useful. So take a little time to reflect on stories you may be telling yourself about situations in your life. Begin by thinking about an area of your life that feels difficult and explore what story you might be telling yourself that is negative. Then think about a story you could tell yourself about that situation that would be more useful. So remembering the 3 principles of communication with the subconscious mind: use the imagination, show your subconscious mind what you do want. And the last thing, that the subconscious mind is in charge of our survival and our pleasure. So when we want to do something, to paint it in the language of, this will help me feel better, or even be safer, in that imagining way. And remembering the 5 ways that I mentioned, and that there's many others that exist, to have fun communicating with your subconscious mind. Have fun reprogramming your automatic pilot. Using your imagination, finding emotional connection, repetition, metaphors, and stories. There's many more, but all of these can really help you as you move into making change in your life.